action.
Senator Durbin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I ask questions of the Secretary, I'd like to ask the indulgence of the committee to introduce two guests that I've brought here today. Alejandra Duran Areola is a second-year student at Loyola University School of Medicine in Chicago. Alejandra, would you please stand? Alejandra grew up in Savannah, Georgia. In addition to medical school, she volunteers at a clinic educating uninsured patients about disease prevention. Her dream is to become an OB/GYN working in underserved communities. She is protected by DACA. Thank you very much, Alejandra, for being here. Her future is in doubt. Without the protection of DACA, she does not have a legal permission to work in America. You cannot become a doctor without a residency. A residency is a job. If DACA is eliminated and her protection is eliminated and her right to work is eliminated, then her future as a doctor is in doubt. John Magdaleno, would you please stand? John came from Venezuela at the age of 9. In high school, he was commander of the Air Honor Society and junior ROTC. He graduated from Georgia Tech, one of the best engineering schools in America, with a degree in chemical and biomolecular engineering with the highest honors. He now works as a chemical engineer. His dream is to serve in the United States military. John, thanks for being here. That's what this debate is all about. That's what DACA is all about. There's been a lot of talk about terrorists and threats to America. We stand as one, not as Democrats or Republican, but as one, in saying, let's keep America safe. But for goodness sakes, not at the expense of young people like the two I just introduced. That is what this conversation and debate is all about. Madam Secretary, I hope you remember me. We were together at 2 meetings last week. I would like to ask you about one of those meetings. It occurred about noon on January the 11th. You were a few minutes late, I know, and asked forgiveness, but you were called at the last minute to come and attend. Some things were said at that meeting which I believe we have to address today. People across the United States and around the world want to know what this president believes should be our priorities when it comes to immigration. I'm going to ask you, as best you can, to recall what you heard the president say when it came to those priorities. What do you remember the president saying about immigration from African countries to the United States?
What I heard him saying was that he'd like to move away from a country-based quota system to a merit-based system. So it shouldn't matter where you're from, it should matter what you can contribute to the United States.
How did he characterize those countries in Africa?
I don't specifically remember a categorization of countries in Africa. I think what he was saying is, as far as best I could tell, and as you know, there were about a dozen people in the room, there were a lot of cross conversations, there was a lot of rough talk by a lot of people in the room. But what I understood him to be saying is, let's move away from the countries and let's look at the individual and make sure that those we bring here can contribute to our society.
Do you remember the president saying expressly, I want more Europeans? Why can't we have more immigrants from Norway?
I do remember him asking about the concept of underrepresented countries as a fix. This was in the conversation about removing the diversity lottery and how we could reallocate that. And I do remember him asking, if we do that and we then assign those to countries that are unrepresented, aren't we just continuing non-merit-based immigration? So from that perspective, I think he did ask, would that cover European countries, or by its nature, would that mean that we are further establishing immigration to purposefully exclude Europeans?
What did the president say about immigrants from Norway?
I heard him repeating what he had learned in a meeting before, that they are industrious, that they are a hardworking country, they don't have much crime there, they don't have much debt. I think in general, I just heard him giving compliments to Norway. You
said on Fox News that the president used strong language. What was that strong language?
Let's see, strong language, there was, apologies, I don't remember a specific word. What I was struck with, frankly, as I'm sure you were as well, was just the general profanity that was used in the room by almost everyone.
Did you hear me use profanity?
No, sir, neither did I.
Did you hear Senator Graham use profanity?
I did hear tough language from Senator Graham, yes, sir.
What did he say?
He used tough language. He was impassioned. I think he was feeling very strongly about the issue, as was everyone in the room. And to underscore a point, I think he was using some strong language.
Do you recall that the strong language he used repeated exactly what the president had said prior to that?
I remember specific cuss words being used by a variety of members.
I'm not going to ask you to say those words here, but I will just say for the record, Senator Graham spoke up in a way that I respect very much, countering what the president had said about countries in Africa, reminding the president that his family did not come to America with great skills or wealth, but they came here as most families do, looking for a chance to prove themselves and make this a better nation. And in defense of Senator Graham, his strong words repeated exactly the words used by the president, which you cannot remember. Let me ask you another question.
If I just could, sir, I do want to say that I greatly appreciate not only Senator Graham's leadership, but yours as well. I know you're both very passionate about this. As you know, afterwards, I approached you and asked that I'm happy to come talk to you anytime to try to work on this deal. I do think that Senator Graham very impassionately described what he believes America is about and what we should move towards. Yes, I agree with that.
Do you support a path to citizenship for DACA recipients and those who were in the DREAM Act?
I think we have to find a permanent solution. Yes, sir.
I hate that phrase, permanent solution. Do you support a path to citizenship?
I believe that as part of the discussion and to make sure that we don't continue temporary populations that continue to exist, we should talk about that. I'm not here to get in front of the president or any final decisions on that particular issue, but yes, I'm happy to discuss it.
Do you recall the president saying that he wanted $20 billion now and he would build this wall within 1 year?
I do remember him saying that he was concerned that given the appropriation cycle, that any deal that we made now would be limited to this year's appropriation. I remember him asking, is there a way to authorize the full down payment of the wall such that we could have assurances that we could in fact build it?
So let's take a look at what your department has done when it comes to building walls. As of December the 6th, 2017, less than 1% of the $341 million appropriated for 40 miles of replacement funding had been expended. Actual construction has yet to begin on money appropriated in the last fiscal year. So is the president realistic when he says he wants $20 billion so he can build the wall in 1 year?
I think the president is encouraging us to go as quickly as we can. As you know, it's a very complicated issue building the wall for a whole variety of reasons. What we're doing right now is we are testing and evaluating those prototypes, and we'll continue to determine not only the design, but what's best per some of the other senators' comments for any particular part of the border, because it will be different. We need a full toolkit.
Madam Secretary, the president made it clear in that meeting that one of the conditions for his assent or agreement to protect DACA was $20 billion so he could build this wall in 1 year. The fate of John and Alejandra lies in the balance here. The president is insisting on something that is physically, legally impossible as a condition for him to give them a chance to be here in the United States legally. Now, you've seen, because you commented on it, Fox News, the proposal which Senator Graham and I, as well as 4 other senators, have made on a bipartisan basis, and you've rejected it. You said at one point, I believe, that, let me see if I quote here, there's nothing in there that would prevent us from getting here again. Are you aware of the fact that included in this proposal is the entire request of the administration for border security in this fiscal year? $1.6 billion for walls and barriers and fences, and another $1 billion for technology, exactly what you asked for. If you don't believe this is going to solve the problem, which is what you said on Fox News, why did the administration request it in the first place?
Well, sir, that's not all we requested, as you know. We also requested to close the loopholes that serve as the pull factors that continue to exacerbate the problem. I cannot apprehend if I cannot remove. That's not border security.
Let me add, the first meeting we had last week, we agreed, and the president agreed, there would be 2 phases to this conversation. The first, immediately to deal with the DACA challenge and the 3 other elements the president
including border security, sir.
Including border security, every penny that you asked for. And then the president said phase 2 goes into comprehensive immigration reform, many of the issues which you described as must-haves. We understand that. To put the entire burden of immigration reform on the shoulders of these DACA recipients is fundamentally unfair, not practical,